Um, how should I start this communication? I suppose maybe what I should do is start with what I wrote in Karen Ann Luke McDonald's 13th Arcturian White Bear Clan Mother, something I put in her window last night. And of course, this goes back to my childhood when I was a teenager. And when you're mated, twin spirit, wound tighter than a drum, experiencing God seed, God speed, the eternal love consciousness, creative speed, which means you're not running on conscious memory. You're running on the conscious. In other words, your energy, the energy of your consciousness, your soul arcing consciousness, being fully integrated into the eternal life, eternal consciousness field, first consciousness field, the FFI field. I'm a Manu Ira. So I only experience through my heart and my soul being one, equal unto all that I am gifting pure, absolute, eternal love energy. So that wherever I go, that's what I experience in a natural form and flow. The form, the mathematical form, which is a formula, which is alchemy, which are mathematical ratios, which are speed ratios. Okay, nuclear sequence codes, right? Spinning a CD. Let's burn a CD, right? Three spheres logos, Mama three spheres logos. And you know what a fire triangle is, right? 3 points. And then you have 4 points. 4 connectors, dot connectors. Yeah, the tetrahedron. Pyramids, right? Pyrotechnics. I'm on fire. Light yourself on fire. So I know how to light myself on fire. That's actually pretty easy to do. You want to know how I light myself on fire? Go be a slave. That's right. They don't understand how that works. What it means is that I'm willing to donate my energy on your behalf in order to show you how pure, eternal, unconditional love actually operates an operating system. That's what it is. Okay? Which means over time, space vectors. You know how code transfers, energy transfers. That girl is going to begin to experience more of what I am, what love is in her. And what does that do? Breaks her resistance. The resistance as a result of all the amnesic barriers. To be held into the shadow realm, which means having a relationship, she thinks you're her slave. But what I'm really doing is burning off her shadow. That's right. I did that on a number of occasions, and they didn't realize that I do know what I'm doing with my light, which is on fire. Full phosphorus ignition, P4, right? So I shared with Karen last night, here's an example of when you're running. This gets into the energy binding devices that that Asha Diane talked about with the Fatal E and the other spiral, because you're being scanned, biometrically scanned when you're in the system here. So if your accretion levels are rising, which is your capacitor on a motherboard at a very high rate of speed, you know what a governor is. Slow that unit down. We don't want that state of consciousness and spirit to be using its conscious creative mind to create a different reality. Because if he starts filling up capacitors at a higher speed, we're going to lose him because we need their energy to keep running our system. That's why I'm just getting hit by this AI when I start sharing that with you, because that's the nature of what it is. That's called the nature of the beast, which is the beast 666 hex system. Fallen spirits, fallen holes, because they can't recover their template. As a result of running distorted sound waves and running the seed that we know, passing the seed onto the lab that can't grow a universe because it's going in the other direction, which is to implode it. Imploding universes, that's what's called universe killer mathematics. Okay? So what I shared with her last night is that this is an example. I was a graduate student at the University of Arkansas. where I had already gone to the University of California, Irvine, and because I worked in the field of biological, radiological, biological weapons, and then went to work for the United States Department of Energy and worked with a lot of technical engineers. Remember Phil Schneider? I believe he worked for EG&G. I worked with a lot of those folks. Remember Phil Schneider covered what was going on down there in New Mexico? So there wasn't a coincidence while I was working with a lot of these engineers who worked in the nuclear power industry with contractors like MK Fick, Babcock Wilcox, Westinghouse, General Electric, all those folks, right? And I worked as a technical engineer working with other nuclear engineers on projects, big multi-million-dollar projects, right? Like Bonneville Power, for example, which is up in Washington State and part of eastern Idaho and part of, what would it be, northeast Oregon. Yeah, that whole area in there. But the point of this is that when I went to Arkansas, because I had enough money to buy what is not really high-end, but because we understand what a high-end system is, when Dell was competing with others like Gates, Gateway, what is it, Gateway Computers and all that, I had a really nice, a high-end Dell computer, and because I was at the university, I got a lot of high-end Hollywood-type publishing software. All the Adobe stuff, all their high-end stuff to publish movies, all that kind of stuff, right? And I had a 24-inch screen. So one day when I was upstairs in this duplex that I was living in right down the street from the university, okay, I got up from that chair at a very nuclear-coded sequence, running the Crystal Sophia Avatar spiral, the first spiral. I got up from that chair, and the door that leads downstairs is only about, 6-7 feet away? Only took me, maybe 5 or 6 seconds to get over there. Boom! That screen exploded. Who was the target? Yours truly. Didn't happen, did it? So if you're running hypercube, hyper speed, you're ahead of the curve. Because if you remember when I talked about 2016, I uploaded a full system data analysis. When you're experiencing yourself as a monad, you can run a full system data analysis on a planetary system, fallen system. So that's why when all that energy, which is represented by an entire timeline, so imagine that your entire timeline is replayed to you. All the frames go right back to a single moment, because that's all there is. It's the completion of a single breath, which is the completion of a circuit. How fast are we completing circuits? Hyperspeed, because I'm hypersensitive. Because I'm giving love to every living cell. So that every living cell experiences what I am, which is what love is. It goes on forever, gifting electrons. The source of electrical power. That's what we are. We're the true source of electrical power, which is pure, eternal, absolute love that's on fire to create. That's space. That's basic programming. That's basic programming 101. That's basic arithmetic, calculus, polarity. Right? So you cancel out both the poles. Right? You cancel out duality. Okay, I'm not either or. I'm one. Wow. So, in other words, it wasn't a coincidence that I happened to get up when I got up, because I was supposed to get up at that exact moment because of already knowing what's going to happen next. Whoa. Yeah. I stopped counting how many times this AI was trying to kill me. Okay, put my antenna out of business with all of its joining assets. Like if you go to Michael Jaco when he talks about remote viewing, he was with Navy SEALs, right? Do you ever remember the movie called Terminator's Rise of the Machines? What was that doing when he jumped? There you see, and there's the machine. Scanning, you see all the data. Hey, he's scanning the field. What's he looking for? Remember what he was looking for? A human angelic. Remember Sarah? gave birth to John. And who was John? Now we're back to Carrie Cassidy and the Rebel Gene. John was the Rebel Alliance. See how this is all coded and woven through all their stories? So I could tell you a lot of horror stories on how this works. But when your accretion levels rise, they don't want you running 100% capacity. You'll start waking people up at a higher rate of speed. So you become a target. So whether or not you get target and how much energy is going to be spent by this system to go after you is going to be based on both your accretion levels and how fast you're waking everybody else up, which is filling up capacitors on a motherboard. That's the truth of it. So I mentioned about what we hold captive in memory, because you got to know that God's speed doesn't hold anything captive in memory because it's always experiencing zero memory. Wow. Because nothing's happened yet. Which means the next experience is what we create. What really is what we manifest. Because what gets manifested, it's God's manifestation. Which means it's running on eternal love. That's right. That's what happens when you're a monad. When you cancel out both the clocks, you experience being one. Now we're giving love to everything that's alive and living in nature, which is the entire cosmos. Wherever you find love and living spirit, you'll find our consciousness, which is our spirit, which is our light spirit body. Whoa. I use the word zoomer. Zooming. So that we are not interfered with in order to get the work done that needs to be done. Which is why we're experiencing what we're experiencing now. Right? It was incremental in nature. Right? In other words, over time, space, vectors. Right? So we're monitoring the speed at which capacitors are rising by virtue of the work that's already been done. Future proves past, back to the future. So we're experiencing the future, what we did before. It's all coded. It's all nuclear coded. The first spiral. See how that works? So it has everything to do with speed ratios. The harmonics. Harmony. Haya Maharata. Haya Kala Zala Unsaya. There's one thing I can share with you, because I learned it through experience, is that the more often that you're listening to the Echo codes, the less that you want to listen to the other codes. I do know that because I've experienced it, and I share that with all of you. Those are healing codes, which are healing nuclear cell codes, which is God's spiral, which is the first spiral, which is eternal absolute love that's on fire to love all of us. That's what I experienced in me. That's what I share with all of you, which is what the truth is. And that's why when I was a little kid, it's like, man, I can expose everything. But you got to be careful, right? Next thing you know is everybody's pointing at you. That's an outlier. You know what an outlier is on a 3D scatter plot, right? This one's different. This one is really different. This one is not a robot. What is this one? I'm a one. The first one. I'm on it. That means I'm an original sound artist because of the speed at which I burn a CD. All right? Writing text into a tectonic plate, a CD plate, a CDT plate, keepers of the flame. The ancient land of Mu. Ring a bell? Pepper, green bell peppers, Emerald Covenant. Ring a bell? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ah, yeah.